JavaScript has a lot of problems. The type of not a number is a number. Arrays and nulls are objects. A string 3 minus 2 is 2, but a string 3 plus 1 is 31. This is just some of the examples in JavaScript, and it is so wild that there's even a repository on GitHub called WTF.js, which lists out all the problems with JavaScript. But learning this language has its advantages. It's, after all, one of the most popularly used programming languages in the world. And if you're making a website, you're likely to spend a lot of time using JavaScript. By the end of the video, you'll get to know some of the common mistakes people make while using JavaScript, and also about how you can avoid them. Let's start with deconstructing. To explain this, let's imagine we have a user object, and inside that object, it contains the username and the email. Let's say we want to display them individually. We will do this by using the dot notation, but you will see that we're repeating the word user quite a lot, and we can avoid this by deconstructing the variable and assigning them each with a name. You can deconstruct variables whenever you want. Here I'm deconstructing them as the parameters of a function. You can deconstruct an array as well. Next up is the spread syntax. Let's imagine that you have an array of primary colors and then another array of secondary colors, and you need to create another array for all the arrays. A bad way to do this would be to use a for loop and the push method on a new array. The better way to do this would be to use the spread syntax to add both the arrays. You can use the spread syntax with an array, objects, as well as the function arguments. Now I have a function to calculate the area of a circle, and this is fine code, but in JavaScript, you can make it a one-liner using arrow functions. I will convert this to an arrow function. To do that, we need to make a new const with the function name, and the parentheses inside of which will have the function argument. Then we need to add all the symbols. Now this is an arrow function. We can directly return the calculation instead of making a variable for each. Another special thing about arrow functions is that we can directly return something if we remove the curly brackets. We have now converted this function into a one-liner. I would also say that it didn't make the code better, just shorter. If it's a much more complex function, you would not want to make the code shorter, as longer code might be more readable. Next is a way to shorten your code. I have a number variable here, and I have a message variable here, which needs to be positive if the number is a positive number and negative if the number is negative. We could do this with an if statement, but instead we could use the ternary operator and do this very simply. Next, let's imagine that you have a variable that stores the user input and the default value of the variable is null. We want to assign the user input to the age, and if the user input is null, we want it to be the string guessed. Bad way to do this would be to use a ternary operator or a logical OR operator. The problem with logical OR is that if the user input is a falsy value like 0, empty strings, or false, it will display guess. The ternary operator works, but you can shorten the code using the nullish operator. The nullish operator checks if the expression on the left-hand side is null or undefined, and it will return the expression on the right even if the left-hand side expression is a falsy value. This will also make the code shorter. Next up is the var keyword. You might have heard of var. In this case, you might have heard that var should always be avoided. Let's say that you have a global variable with the var keyword. If you try to call to log the variable, you'll get the result. This is normal, but now let's say that you made the variable inside an if statement. Now, you would think that this should give an error when you try to console log it, but it doesn't. JavaScript makes it a global variable even though it's inside an if statement. The weird thing is that if you wrap this inside a function, it will become scope only inside the function. Another thing about var is that if you try to declare the same variable twice, it doesn't give an error. Due to these cases, you should try to avoid the use of declaring variables using var. Instead, use the let keyword. If you enjoyed this video so far, please make sure to like the video, and it would also mean a lot to me if you did. Next up is not about improving code, but increasing the readability of the code. It is to use JSDocs. You may already know the importance of using comments in your code, but JSDocs is a way of adding comments to your JavaScript code. To demonstrate this, I have a simple function called add. JSDoc comments begin with a / and 2 asterisks, and then end with 2 asterisks and a backward slash. Inside here, you can add the details of the function, and then you can specify the details for each parameter using the params and specify the type of the param followed by a description. We could also add a return type for the function, and this specifies the return type followed by the description. If you're using VS Code, you'll notice that when you hover over the function, you can see the comments. You can also even add links to the comments. They will become clickable. The details appear even when you are calling the function, and this will help you ensure that you are using the right variable. Some frameworks like Svelte makes use of JSDocs to handle type checking. You're not limited to functions here. You could add JSDocs to classes and pretty much any other things, and also other modules, and they're especially useful when you create your JavaScript frameworks. Next up is using the Async Await function. Here's a bad way to handle promises in JavaScript. As you can see, there are a lot of callbacks involved in this. There's a callback to convert the response to JSON, and even more callbacks to get the data. This is difficult to read and more error-prone and difficult to debug. Instead, opt for the Async Await in your code. You will get a better code that is both easy to read and less error-prone. I hope that everyone watching this video learned something new, and if you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.